Hey guys, thank you all so much for joining us this afternoon. We are here live today to give you some tips and some recommendations for your lawn. Now, if you have any questions whatsoever during this broadcast, we have some highly trained team of lawn experts that can answer your questions. Feel free to post them below and they're on ready to answer your questions, whatever you have. My name is Scott. This is Pamela.
Hey guys, thanks for joining.
And Hillary will be joining us momentarily. We're located at Super-Sod in Lawrenceville. We're located in Lawrenceville, Georgia, right off of 316. 316 is a highway that takes from Atlanta to Athens, Georgia. And so we're kind of right there in the middle a little bit. We're just south of the 316, and we're just north of the Gwinnett County Airport. So we're nestled right in the middle of those two. Now, a couple things that we do offer here. We offer sod. The most popular sellers right now are going to be the Tiff Tough Bermuda, the Elite Tall Fescue, and the Xenozoysia at this time of the year. You can buy those in pallet quantities, 500 square feet per pallet, or in individual roll quantities, which is about 10 square feet per roll. It's 2 foot by 5 foot. Now, we also have Soil Cube, which is a humus compost that is certified for organic use. It comes in the large cubic yard bags as well as the smaller cubic foot bags. It has a great number of uses. We also have stone, both artificial and natural, as well as other fertilizers and chemicals, things of that nature. You can place your orders through supersod.com online, or if you need help making decisions with the options that we have, feel free to give us a call. You can call us and one of our sod experts, customer service representatives, will be able to help you and work through those decisions. Now, you can place your order, and to help with this current situation, we do have a curbside building. Right now, Lindsay's in there waving at you guys. Sometimes it might be Eileen or one of the guys, but we're here for you in order to provide a safe social distance. You place your order before you come, drive up to that little building, tell them who you are, and we will take care of you from there. So that's who we are, that's kind of where we're at and what we offer and what we do. Let me first start talking to you about pre-emergent. The pre-emergent that we have is 007 with barricade. 007, that's those three numbers, those three digits, 007. If you've ever wondered what those numbers do, that first number is your nitrogen number. And we'll talk more about nitrogen in just a moment. Your second number is the phosphorus, which is root growth. And right now, most of the warm season grasses, all the warm season grasses are dormant. So that's not really a factor at this moment with the warm season grasses. We'll talk more about that in the live tips in a couple months. But that number 7 right now, the 007, that number 7 is super important. That's your potassium number. And potassium is really important right now this time of the year for a couple different reasons. One is that it will help make your sod more cold tolerant, which is what we want. We've got these cold temperatures coming in, but then it also makes your sod more disease resistant as well. And of course, with all the rain that we've had, I think we've got a whole bunch coming in tomorrow in this area at least. And so we want to have that as much as possible at this time. So that 007, that 007 is perfectly good right now. So let's talk about this pre-emergent. The first point I want to make about pre-emergent is the signal for pre-emergent. When do we apply it? What can we do? We can't check it off on a calendar because the weather is different and so unpredictable year to year. So there is a plant, that's this plant right here. It's called Forsythia. Forsythia is a beautiful super-sod yellow flower that blooms off of it. That super-sod yellow, that beautiful bloom, and it signals to us when to apply the pre-emergent. So the reason why it's a biological signal, and so what it is the thing, the soil temperatures that tell this plant to bloom that beautiful yellow, that super-sod yellow flower, is the exact same soil temperatures when the weeds come in and they grow and they root, and so they germinate. And so that tells us when to do it. That signals to us when to plant it. So be on the lookout for these yellow ones. This is a brand new one. There's nothing on it. It's not time yet. We're going to plant that here to be a helpful reminder to us in the future. So we talked about the signal. Now let's talk about the setting. We've got these incredibly cool Super-Sod yellow spreaders. These Super-Sod yellow spreaders are really incredible. They're nicely done. And the setting on this one is going to be 18. However, not all spreaders are the same. Every spreader is going to be different. Every spreader setting is going to be different. I would highly recommend this one for that specific situation. When you purchase one of these, you'll get a piece of paper that tells you all of the settings for the products that we sell. Not only that, but if you Google Super-Sod yellow spreader, it will take you to a blog post that has all of those online as well. So you'll always have it handily available. So right now, we have a special offer on these where if you purchase a Lawn Coach subscription, either Essential or a Champ, you'll get 20% off of this product, of this spreader. Now, the Lawn Coach is incredibly cool. It is an annual subscription that provides you with the stuff that you need when you need it. That's so incredibly cool. So the Essential has the fertilizer and the pre-emergent. The Champ package also includes the insecticide and the fungicide. Now, the really cool part about that is it shows up on your doorstep when you need to apply it. So you don't have to worry about a calendar and keeping up, when did you do this, when did you do that. As soon as it shows up, as soon as it ships to your door, that's when you need to apply it. So we've got those two different packages. In addition to that, you get the 20% off this, but you also get a VIP email address. So anytime you have questions, anytime you need recommendations, you can shoot us an email, you can send us pictures to that email, and you will have some of the top people in their field to be able to answer your questions. And so that VIP address is there for you as well with that Lawn Coach subscription. So we have the signal for pre-emergent, that forsythia plant blooming, that beautiful Super-Sod yellow flower. You have the Super-Sod yellow spreader. The setting on that one for this situation is 18. But then you also have the skill set. So what in the world does pre-emergent do? What's the point of it? Why do we make such a fuss about it twice a year? Once in the spring and once in the fall. What does it do? What's the barricade that we talked about? Well, that barricade, that 007 with barricade, that's the active ingredient. That active ingredient, what it does is it creates a barrier right on top of the soil to prevent weeds from rooting in. So if you get weed seeds coming in from maybe those neighbors' lawns, or the guy down the street comes by and drops some off for you, it will go ahead and even start germinating. But as soon as those roots hit that barrier, as soon as those roots hit that barricade, it kills it immediately, which is incredibly cool because you're taking care of the weeds before they become a problem. That's what we want. So make sure you're doing that. Now, let me also note, if you install new sod, warm season grasses need 12 months from install to the time that you can apply the pre-emergent. Now, fescue, on the other hand, that's a little different. It only needs 6 months for that purpose. So please remember those things when it comes to pre-emergent. Now we have Pamela, who's going to come and talk to us a little bit about cool season grass.
Hey guys, so yes, I am here to talk about our cold season grass, which is our elite tall fescue. So right now, fescue is a beautiful green color. If you have a fescue lawn, you are probably the envy of the neighborhood since most other sods are dormant right now. So we want to talk a little bit of taking care of this fescue and knowing what to do for it to make sure that it is nice and lush and beautiful for you. So let's start with seeding the fescue. If you are planning on overseeding your fescue or starting a new fescue lawn with seed, unfortunately, that time is done for this season. You cannot lay seed anymore for your fescue. It is too cold and it's not going to work. We can, however, still lay the sod. So if you need sod, give us a call. We can definitely get you what you need for the sod purposes, but don't do seed at this point. You'll need to wait until the fall to be able to do that. So the next thing we're going to talk about is mowing our fescue. If you've seeded your fescue and your seedlings are about 3 to 4 inches tall, you want to go ahead and get that cut. Cutting promotes growth in our fescue. So once those seedlings have made that 3 to 4 inches, go ahead and cut it. Remember when cutting sod that you don't want to cut more than about 1/3 of the blade off at one time. So go ahead and get them cut if they've gotten to that right height. You want your fescue right now to be at about 2.5 to 3 inches tall. Come spring and summer, you can go ahead and raise that blade up to about 3 and 4 inches, let it be a little taller. But right now, let's keep it about 2.5 to 3 inches. So the next thing we're gonna talk about is maintaining our sod. So, or our fescue. So right now, like Scott said, you want to get that pre-emergent down. We recommend, because we don't know exactly what time, sometime between February 15th and March 1st is the time frame that you want to lay that pre-emergent, just depending on exactly where you're located. But remember, February 15th, March 1st, sometime in those couple of weeks, get that pre-emergent down. We want to block those weeds from coming up this spring and this summer. And then right now, you do want to go ahead and get a high nitrogen fertilizer on your fescue. So we recommend the 16-4-8. That nitrogen is going to help that growth of that fescue to get up and have that beautiful dark green color. You can purchase both of those at our Super-Sods. All of our Super-Sods have the 16-4-8 and the pre-emergent. You can order them online, or you can give us a call and we'll be glad to take that order. So at this time, Scott is going to talk about our warm season grasses.
Thank you so much, Pamela. We appreciate that helpful information. Our warm season grasses, what I mean by warm season grass is different types of sod. We have the Bermudas, the zoysias, and centipede, anything that's really dormant right now. So there's a couple things that we need to wait on, but there's a couple things that we need to work on. So let me start by talking about what we need to wait on. If you're anything like me, you want to make sure you're doing everything you can to make it happen, to make it look good. And so in that situation, sometimes we don't have our priorities correct, or the timing is not correct. And so be careful with that. What we need to wait on at this point, there's a couple things that we need to wait on. First thing we want to wait on with warm season grass is going to be fertilizing. Now, like Pamela talked about just a moment ago, fescue, the elite tall fescue, you can put the 16-4-8 on it. But the warm season grass, you do not want to do that. And there's a couple reasons why. First of all, it promotes growth. That nitrogen, we talked about that earlier. The nitrogen is anything above the soil. So your leaf, the growing, how the color of it, all of that. And we don't want to promote growth at this point of the year. The reason for that is as it grows, that new tender growth, and then we have this weather that's coming in next week where the temperature is going to be in the teens, all of that will cause damage to it. So now is not the time to apply a fertilizer to a warm season grass. But also, if you put the fertilizer down, that nitrogen is only going to feed the weeds, which of course we don't want to deal with right now. We don't want to do that. So I do not recommend applying a fertilizer to your warm season grass. One other thing I don't recommend doing right now, I recommend waiting on, is aerating. When you aerate, of course, that's putting small holes into the ground and pulling up plugs, and the plugs are laying all over your ground. And while we recommend aerating, we don't recommend doing it now. So doing it now would cause issues with just the visual effects of it, because your sod is not actively growing with the warm season grass. So you'll have to deal with looking at the holes, looking at the plugs from now until it starts actively growing. So you don't want to fool with that. So when should you wait till? You've got a couple more months. You want to wait till your sod is almost all the way green. Not when it starts turning green, but when it's almost all the way green. That's when you can go ahead and do that, and we'll remind you of that later. So let's wait on those things. Let's wait on the fertilizer. Let's wait on the aeration. But a couple things you can work on, something that you can make happen, and that's going to be weed suppression. You can suppress those weeds, and you can work hard at it. And everything you do now will help you make sure you have the best lawn in the neighborhood later. A couple ways to do that, like we talked about with the pre-emergent. Apply that pre-emergent as soon as this plant turns yellow. So we'll do the pre-emergent, but also keeping your lawn mowed. The reason why is you don't want the weeds to go to seed, because as soon as they go to seed and you cut them, then you have a vicious cycle because those seeds get spread and you'll have to deal with it over and over again. You don't want to fool with that mess. Keep your lawn, your weeds mowed. And one way to do that, I don't want to mow when it's this temperature. I know you don't want to either. So what I would recommend is getting the Husqvarna Auto Mower. Getting that auto mower, what it is, it's a robot lawnmower. How incredibly cool is that? We're in the future, right? It's just like the little robot lawnmower, the robot vacuum cleaner that's inside the house. Let's get one for the outside, a robot lawnmower. If you're interested in that, give us a call, let us know. We'll send somebody out to you, assess your property to make sure everything will work, and we can provide you with a quote of installation. So we want to make sure we get the pre-emergent down to suppress the weeds. We want to make sure it's mowed to suppress the weeds. And then also, if you have a flower bed or up next to a tree like an island, and putting fresh mulch down, putting fresh pine straw down, all of that will help to suppress the weeds as well. Of course, if you're right next to a tree, back that off a little bit for the tree's purpose. That would be really good to do as well. And then one last thing you can do to help with the weed suppression is going to be hand picking those weeds. I know that sounds laborious, but that's okay. We've all made New Year's resolutions to be more active, to help burn calories, to be outside, those types of things. So it's kind of a two birds, one stone concept. So get out, get the fresh air, hand pick your weeds, and that'd be great. Let's make sure we're doing all we can now, which is mainly weed suppression, so that way later our lawn will look beautiful. Now we're going to have Hillary come and tell us about one weed specifically.
Thanks, Scott. I'm Hillary Thompson. I'm the marketing director of Super-Sod. You've just heard from Scott. He's the store manager here at the Lawrenceville, Georgia store. You also heard from Pamela earlier. She is customer support for the Atlanta, North Georgia area. Today, I'm going to talk about one of my favorite things, which is weeds. And I have a weed right here. This is February's weed of the month. I picked it this morning. It was frozen when I picked it because it was 26 degrees out. This is Stellaria media, also called common chickweed or starweed. It's called common chickweed. The hint is there in the name, common, because it's common. It's everywhere right now. You'll probably see it in your yard, just like I had it in mine. So Stellaria media, Stellaria means star in Latin, and media means middle or in the middle. So the name Stellaria part comes from the flower. It's the flower shape. The flower is super tiny. It's about the size of a pencil tip, and that's even an exaggeration. It's smaller than that. Interestingly, Stellaria is in the carnation family. So you can picture a big bouquet of carnations like you'll see this Valentine's Day. This is a carnation, but it is nothing like a bouquet flower. You can see here, this is one plant. It came from one center taproot, or a massive taproots. The stems are super clingy. They cling onto everything. They kind of get really tangled. They get tangled in the mulch. They'll also get tangled on themselves. We have a picture. It's basically a casebook picture I took from my garden. Actually, it's this very plant. I pulled it up later. It shows the center point and how the branches radiate from that all around it in a perfect circle. However, when it's growing close with other chickweeds, it forms a gigantic mat. It's like a gigantic colony. So these stems, they lay flat. They go along the ground, but if there's something for them to climb up, they will start climbing up it a little bit, like a shrub or other nearby plants, and it radiates about 1.5 feet, and the same thing, it will start kind of twining up a shrub 1.5 feet tall as well. It's really easy to get out. If you are pulling it out of a shrub and it tangles up and some stays in the shrub, don't worry about it. Just leave it there. It will disappear in a matter of weeks. It will just rot away. So it's very easy to dig up but you will leave some roots in the ground, and that's okay. Just get out kind of the center mass of roots and let the rest of the roots just stay in there and decompose. So this is common chickweed, and another ID feature is its leaves, which are now kind of mutilated by traveling around in a bucket for several hours, but the leaves are arranged opposite to each other along the stem, and they have no hairs. They are what is called smooth. It has a look-alike chickweed called mouse ear chickweed, and the leaves on that are super fuzzy, and they have the similar habit where they grow from one point and radiate all around, but those fuzzy leaves will really give it away. Also, it is an entirely different species. It's related, but it is a different species. Some other ID features we talked about, so we covered the smooth leaves, we covered the tiny flowers, and the seeds are next. The seed capsule is green. It's really inconspicuous. You won't see it. But that seed capsule will open up and scatter up to 2,500 seeds per parent plant, per mother plant. That's a whole lot of seeds. You won't even see this happening because it's very inconspicuous. But those seeds have the potential to remain in the soil up to 40 years. So if you're seeing this plant out of the blue, it was likely in your soil already. I'll back it up a minute. Chickweed loves human activity. It goes where humans go. So it loves disturbed soils, like where we build our houses, where we build our sidewalks, where we lay new sod. It will show up on the margins of the sod. Where we dig holes for fence posts, it will take root there. Where we create new beds for flowers and vegetables, it will show up there. Recently, I had it show up where I didn't have it before at all in the garden. I had a flower bed and my lawn, and I had a lot of water coming through there. So I dug a trench between the sod and the flower bed for the downspout, just to funnel right through there. Well, chickweed popped up all along that trench and in that flower bed where I had scooped up the soil and then basically turned it upside down on the bed there. Where did it come from? So we just determined that it could be in the soil for 40 years, those seeds. So when I scooped up the soil, seeds that were buried and did not see daylight were now exposed to light. And not only does water cause seeds to germinate, but for many, many seeds, especially weeds, light initiates germination. So it's a combination of water and light. Secondly, they might have come from birds. Birds love chickweed seed, and they'll eat it and distribute it widely. So chickweed's this weed, but it's really not all bad, is it? Chickweed, interestingly enough, is also food. I have tried it because I got curious about it, and I kind of got a kick out of eating a weed. And all the recipes I saw were for fresh, so I incorporated some into salads. I tried it on sandwiches, and I liked it. It was a little bit bland. It was fresh tasting though, and what I read, it is full of nutrition. And also, interestingly, it is used as an animal food. Like my sister feeds it as snacks to her rabbits. It's not to be used as a main food, but more as a supplement or a snack or a treat. I do read other livestock will eat it, and there's no harm in it, but please do double check that yourself. Also, poultry love it. We just talked about birds loving it, and poultry is a bird, and then there again, in the name, common chickweed is your hint. Chicks love it. Chicks love the seeds, is from what I understand. So you have this weed that's shown up out of the blue. It loves living around you and all your activities in the garden. What do you do about it? If you're not going to eat it, if you're not going to feed it to your animals, how do you get rid of it? Well, we talked about hand weeding quite a lot already today. You can hand weed it. All this plant, it just had this one center root system. Like I talked about, we left the rest in the soil, but you can kind of just, as you go along, roll it up into a big mass as you're incorporating everything around it, and you'll have this big, I'm sorry, Scott, I'm getting your lawn dirty.
That's okay, we've got pre-emergent.
Okay. You can roll it up into a big mass and just scoop it up and put it on your compost pile. It is full of water and it will decompose very quickly. So if you're not going to eat it, if you're not going to feed it, if you're not going to hand weed it, you can spray herbicide. It is very susceptible to herbicide and will be readily killed off that way. We sell herbicides that will treat it, Quinsep, and what's the other one?
3-Way Max.
3-Way Max. All Super-Sod stores will have that in stock. You can call ahead and order it, and we showed you the curbside pickup, and we can have it ready and waiting for you. The fourth way is pre-emergent, and we have talked even more about pre-emergent today than about hand weeding. However, the hint is in the name as well. This weed has already emerged, is growing everywhere. You see it everywhere now. Pre-emergent will not treat it. So what do? Fast forward, project yourself into time, into September, when the second window for pre-emergent opens. We'll send out emails as well. We'll send out an email alert, and if you subscribe to Lawn Coach, we'll just send you your pre-emergent when it's time. So September pre-emergent is the ground is then ready for winter weeds to start germinating. Winter weeds like chickweed, like Poa annua, which was our January weed of the month, and several other weeds will feature a new one next month, so stay tuned for that. But pre-emergent in September is going to be the easiest way to take care of a chickweed infestation. And I'd like to thank Scott and Pamela today. I think they were wonderful hosts. Thank you for hosting us, and we really look forward to next month, and we hope you join us for our March lawn tips, only 4 weeks away. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.